All right, everyone, we are ready to get started. We were anxious for this moment. This is the webinar about reporting, FinOps reporting, when costs become useless. It's a series that we want to start today, Change My Mind. We want to put very strong statements in here, challenge your thoughts around this, and let's see how we go. At the end, my expectation for this call is that we have a very good time, very good discussions, and hope you like what we have to present. Before we move a little bit further, I just want to do a little bit of a housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you after the event. So if you want to put a question, be aware of that. Your image may be recorded. We are using a tool where you can put as well your questions anonymously. I will tell you a little bit more about that in a moment, which is this tool called Slido or Slido, and I'm not sure how to say that correctly. So where you can submit your questions and you can upvote or downvote the questions. So you can start doing this as soon as it's open. Uh, and we're going to run 3 anonymous polls that will be run through the entire webinar. So we appreciate your participation. Here is the code. You can put your cell phone pointing to this QR code and the number in here if you want to address that through your browser. If it asks, just using any funny nicknames, okay? Let's make this as funny as well. If you're listening to this as a recording, unfortunately, it will not be active by the time you listen or watching this video, but hopefully you will see all the interactions of the people that were participating on the call at the moment that it was displayed. So in order to test our new tool, I would like to go run through a quick icebreaker. All right. And the icebreaker is this. Has anything funny happened recently? So get into this lido.com on this meeting. This is a word count. Okay. So if everybody writes something, it will appear automatically here on the call. Let me take my camera as well so I can do that. So anything funny just happened recently, just put it in here on the chat and let's have a good time here. How's that? I see that 3 participants are typing. Huh, some beer with Eric, I can see. Right. I will write something here. All right. Any other thing, anyone, that you did that was fun? FinOps dinner. Tomorrow is a public holiday. Really? Nice. Curious to know which country is this.
I think Germany, right?
I don't
Yes.
know. In Germany?
Yeah.
Nice. Good for you guys. I see that there are 2 more people typing here. Let's see what we're gonna get. Anything funny that happened recently, maybe yesterday, this week, or last week? Woo! Many things in here. Account FinOps accidentally oops save purchase. All of this, maybe someone was trying to write something and then it got one answer by a time, but that's
I
okay.
think it sounds like I accidentally purchased a subscription which cost me basically $999.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Will you use it? All right. Hopefully this is going to be useful if you're not able to return. Let's wait for this last one that is typing and then we can move to the next slide. Who is that? Let's see what's going to show here on the screen. One more. Okay. Man, it seems that this person is typing a poetry. Okay. Pizza with friends.
Yay.
Okay. It took a while to write that. Okay. I think that we are able to go to the next one. Oh, let me see another one here. Eric number one t-shirts. Yes, that's really fun. Be happy with your cost. Not sure if he's saying this literally or um,
I'm saying this literally. This to be
really.
taken literally, yes.
Aha. Okay. Let's see if this going to remain the same until the end of this call. Okay. So stay tuned until the end of this call. We've got a surprise for you. Okay. I will not say anything else, but just stay with us until the end. So we're going to get something that I think you're going to give like it. Okay. So moving on to this one. Uh, hey, Eric, would you like to take us through this one real quick?
Yeah, sure. And you can hide the sharing notification if you want. It's no big deal.
Okay, right, cool.
Yeah, so basically, what about this? So, quick overview over the last 2 decades with cloud cost reporting, actually. And that is that I want you to see two things here. One is the first two steps, the first two phases were 13 years. Then only afterwards, the last 4, 5, 6 years, it has been moving on and accelerating. Okay, but the first the first 13 years were basically like only about, yeah, here's your cloud bill, good luck. And the second one is, yeah, how to confuse people with tagging and taxonomy and naming conventions. Only then, finally, we get into the phase of real-time monitoring. Okay, so look, click here and see the cost back there. Nice. And then unit economics. Yeah, finally, your math teacher can says he was right. You need divisions one day. So, all right. That's it. And then shift left. Yeah, we finally realized that months of engineering can save hours in management. Yes, we finally realized that even in FinOps. So finally, we are shifting left. And then one thing, yeah, this is for me the super big one: focus, standardization. This is a super big thing. How they strong-armed all the cloud service providers into providing the cost data into one standardized format is amazing. So I came up with this quote. So focus, one standard to rule them all, one standard to find them, one standard to bring them all, and in the cloud, bind them. I don't know if someone got this reference, but okay. And the next one is, yeah, FinOps as code. Yeah. What I would love is people as code, because FinOps technical problems are challenges, but can be solved, but still FinOps is a people problem. So now I think the main takeaway from all the last 2 decades of cloud cost reporting is actually, I think, the focus standardization. That's the biggest thing we can have out here. So I pass now the word to Anderson, who's going to present something.
Right. So talking about focus, I believe that this was one of the biggest steps that we had in the FinOps recently. And in order to demonstrate what we're talking about here, I just want to share this with you on the screen. We prepared a report that contains, let's say, 4 months of data, dummy data of on the focus format, specifically for Azure, to present that to you. This is, in my opinion, the minimum that anyone would need to have in order to start doing FinOps. It is a way to visualize data. In this case, it's Power BI. On the left-hand side here, I have the billing data on the focus format. As you can see here, we have all the fields from focus plus Microsoft adds this one with the X on the beginning that is related to additional fields that are not part of the focus format itself, but they find it's useful, and I find it's useful as well. But everything that doesn't have the X on the front comes from the focus. And as you know, Focus is really detailed in cost and usage data, regardless if it's Focus or not. It's very, it's huge. It's a big data problem. There are lots and tons of data. You have need to have something on the background to crunch this data for you. For example, Databricks, um, OpenOps is also in there, or you can use a third-party tool. There are plenty of them there. We have Pelanor represented in this call, maybe others. So you need something that gives you the data, and not only the data, but actually the data in a daily basis in some sort of detailed or breaking down that allows you to do the proper analysis. This is something that we really need to do in order to get started. We know that this is not everything, but at least to get started, and that's where we want to start. Digging deeper into the questions that we have for this seminar. I guess that Ido, do you want to say something for the additional data that we want to also add to the reports and so, right?
Yeah. So I think also, as noted in the, I'd say, the title of this call, a lot of what we want to discuss here with you at the rest of this conversation is why this data is so much like lacking that actually looking only at that type of data is probably useless for many of the companies listening to this webinar. And I think the first reason for this is that not correlating the cost data and the effective cost with your business often loses what really happened within your business behind the scenes. And I think like this GIF is trying to simulate like a very simple scenario of that. So your cost might have gone up in a specific period of time, but maybe you got a lot more business during that time. So maybe the cost per, let's say, customer you're servicing, or per API call being done if you're a SaaS tool that recently changed their pricing model to be based on usage, like many of the tools doing these days, is actually going down. So maybe you're more efficient, although your cost has gone up. So just looking at the numbers and then saying to the engineering teams or to the leadership, we've done bad because our cost went up during the last year, is probably not a very useful thing to say when tracking that. But I think even more than that, in others, if you can move to the next slide, looking at these types of averages is often also not enough. So again, like a very simplistic scenario. So let's say you have like between all of your customers, an average cost per active user of $150, for example, per 100K users, for example, or something like that. That might mean one metric that you can look at, like the previous thing shown in the last slide. Maybe if that goes up or goes down, that's like a start of a conversation of saying whether we've done better or worse during our last Q. But actually, that's also often not enough to really understand your business, because the distribution between your different segments, whether it's a specific customer that might be very big, whether it's, let's say, your customer is coming from a specific region or using your app versus the browser, or the customer coming from a specific affiliate versus a different affiliate for B2C companies, might have very, very different pricing structures. And actually just looking at the averages might not mean anything to what you should do to improve your stats. Getting to the better level of granularity is the only thing that really makes sense when correlating to your business. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that not only that looking at the cost is not enough, often looking at averages is not enough, and you need to actually being able to correlate that with specific business outcomes that you're measuring, whether if that's customers, segments, features, or flows within your business. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Eric.
Okay, cool. Can you go on? Yes, we have a couple of reporting examples that we would like to analyze with you or look at or get your opinion. So get ready on your cell phone, because we will start a new voting very, very soon. Okay, and that is, look at this. I'm taking a leaf out of the security team, how some of them have done their reporting, and I want to have your feedback on this. What would you say? You are the head of security. Go to the next slide, please. You're the head of the security, and you are in a large organization, and you have managed to bring it down to 0 security incidents, and you think that's the best thing ever, almost impossible, and that is the report basically you're sending to the executive level. So I think now we should have a new, sorry, I'm checking on my phone as well. We should have a new poll, right? Or can you
Yeah.
activate it? So what, sorry, where is it? I can't see it. So what will happen if the executives see this report, actually? And I don't know how many are voting. I think, Anderson, you can see that, right? So I want
Yeah,
you
it's on the
still to think
screen.
back to the security lead and what effort has gone behind that to actually achieve a 0 security incident. Because any stupid user, sorry, that clicks on a phishing link, that's a security incident, right? So if we have 0, that's a huge achievement, okay? Then we will come back to this a little bit in a little bit. I want to show you another example in Anderson's reporting, and I want you to rate that as well. So I'm giving back now the microphone to Anderson. He will show another piece of his reporting, and we will vote that very quickly then.
Right. So coming back to the to this one here, we have a simple summary that contains the focus data as I was showing you. There is another thing here so I'm just opening here in Excel as we're gonna use this one in here. We want to enrich this data, for example, with this. So something that I didn't show later as one, with the focus data, you are also able to do some detailed analysis like in here, for example, searching by meta category, see how much was spent and the usage. So all of this is good thing. Um, but we also have something that we can add on top of this graph, so it makes it a little bit more, let's say, juicy, which is the ability to add, for example, revenue. All right. So on this graph here, on the line, blue, dark blue, is the revenue. And what this one shows is uh, that on the course of the period, the revenue was down and then it went up, while the cloud cost remains pretty stable. And the way that I do that is just simply as, picking one Excel where I put here the days and the revenue, um, and then linking this to a Power BI. It's nothing too fancy, but it's very effective. So here, my friend Eric, we have something interesting. Let's see, someone would say, okay, costs were stable, but revenue went up. So
So
what
does
would you say about that?
yeah, I think this is a wonderful news, because typically when revenue goes up, usage goes up. And if usage goes up, typically costs go up. But here the cost stays stable. That means that probably, I don't know the numbers behind, probably there were some cost savings initiatives that made it so that despite the increment in usage, we didn't have the cost spike. Also, another possibility is that maybe we chose the right architecture and platform for this application. So unless the amount of user don't really go out of scale, we can handle it easily with the current cost structure. But that brings us to a how can I say, to a problem of interpretation, right? So, but before we step into the problem of interpretation, I would like you to vote for this report here with your honest feedback, 0 to 10.
Right.
So I think you need to start the poll.
Should we talk about this one now, or do you want to talk about this one later? Eric.
Sorry, this one. No, let's talk about this one first. Sorry. Skip this. Talk about this first. So we added, Anderson added also some reports for the FinOps team, and it's very important to actually show what we are doing. Okay, so in that sense, we should show the targets we are working towards, the goals we are reaching, and stuff like that. So that is also very important. That's something that I have missed in my past sometimes, and might even have cost me a contract here and there, simply because I was working towards the business goals, but I was not reporting what I actually myself was doing. So I hope you can learn from my mistakes and include that in your reporting. So now if you want to give a vote for all of these tabs that show more or less different aspects, still keep in mind this is a sample data. We don't have a proper business context. Obviously, some things are missing, but still, I would like to have your honest feedback in the poll with a vote from 0 to 10.
All right. So how do you rate the reports that you just saw? Pick up one of the faces. Give you a couple of minutes to do so. All right, 4 people have voted. All right. Seems that it's all over at least one person voted in one face kind of thing. Score 4.8. Seems that people are not very happy with that. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes. We have 11 people on the call. Anyone else want to vote? All right. Cool. I think that you can. What do you think about this result, Eric?
Well, I myself, I voted 0. And I'll soon explain you why. I'm letting you dangle a little bit why I voted 0 and why Anderson and I are still friends. So yes, this was a setup. It was a trap. Let's go to the next slide, please. What we showed you until now were dashboards, but we used the word reporting the whole time. Why? Because so many tool providers, even the cloud service providers themselves, their native tooling, they confuse the whole time in their wording reporting and dashboarding. So a dashboard can be a part of your reporting. The issue is the context. So let's take an operations team. They know their context. They see the numbers at the dashboard. They know exactly what's going on, and they don't need to read instructions to interpret the numbers. But if you take that dashboard out of context and send it to another department, then it's useless. So reporting with dashboards out of context has become a practice. We have automated report exports in almost every FinOps tool on the market. And it seems like a trend that we FinOps practitioners simply forgot to do our part. I mean, if you hire a plumber to fix the sink, they don't send you the toolbox. They come in person with the toolbox and fix the sink. So the critique that I'm posing is we ourselves forgot to bring ourselves into the game and actually add insights and extract information from out the numbers and the dashboards. Okay, that is something that I've been seeing going less and less and less, that we just say, yes, report. We just send a dashboard. We just provide every team with a dashboard. We can automate that. And that is something that I've seen as a worrying trend going on increasingly, including myself. And sometimes that I said, okay, let's implement reporting, and just forgot that actually I myself should take everything I know about the business, about the context, about the alignment with the company strategy and so on, and actually write a report, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, not important, but add my insights, because that is my worth. Okay. So now please click on the link for the financial report, and let's hope it opens. Yes. So I will share the link later. It's AI generated. I just used a couple of prompts to get back and forth. It's sample data. So don't slash it now, but you see the big difference. We can insert, copy paste from a dashboard. And here I generate a little bit of a history. So for example, here, the story behind this is we forgot to renew our RIs. Okay, so we see a cost spike in VM hourly costs. Okay. If we read through, we don't need to read through all the text, but basically what happens is, that had a big implication for Team E, which was the only user of that VM type, and also for application A, sorry, obviously standardized names. So the issue was that basically we see the cost trends for Team E go up as the reserved instances are no longer used, and we go back to the on-demand pricing. So the thing is, since Team E is the only one working for application A, or reading the other way around, application A is the only application that uses the services of Team E, also the application costs for application A went up. Scroll down a little bit to the next chart. I can leave them to read the report later. Okay, so that is the thing. Also, we have ongoing cloud migrations, okay? And the issue I'm pointing out here is, if we just look at the numbers, they have basically literally no meaning unless there is someone or some text explaining it. And that is my stance for today, that the dashboard-ish cost reporting is absolutely useless, right? It's like the plumber sending a box with the tools and do it yourself, okay? So what I hope I can encourage everyone in the call is to apply your brain power and use a little bit of elbow grease to actually go back to reporting on top of the stats and the dashboards you get from the tools, okay? Because if you read through this, I know it's AI generated, but it's quite interesting to read, because there are some hidden insights here and there. And it also shows, for example, I don't know, tagging maturity. Why would tagging maturity go down, for example? It only makes sense if you explain that you maybe had some increasing cost through migration. So things were migrated and were not immediately tagged. So that is why for certain teams, the tagging coverage went down and then went up again, and stuff like that, okay? Then also one other thing that is very often overlooked, and we should look into more, especially with shift left, and that is the profitability of applications, actually. When was the last time the cloud team looked into that? So that is something that we are overlooking, that we are missing, right? And if we don't look at the profitability and just report, and now we come back to that, a big number that says 0 is security incidents, or cloud costs went from 4 million to 5 million, everyone in the room will have their opinion and say you should cut cloud costs, right? So you're not providing any context, you're not giving you any favors. By the way, I know the guy who sent this security 0 incidents report. He got fired because the executive's response was, there were 0 incidents, why are we paying you? I'm not kidding. They didn't phrase it with those words, but they got sacked because they basically didn't provide their own value in their own reporting. Okay, they should have demonstrated which initiatives they did, how they trained the users, and this and that, right? And how much potential damage they avoided by not having security incidents. Similarly, our reporting, and also any non-FinOps manager here who reports on IT costs as a budget, you cannot simply say that the cloud cost went from 4 to 5 million last year. You should say the revenue went up by, I don't know, 50 million, and the cloud cost went up by 2. If we want to keep operating at this level of efficiency, I need an increase in headcount. And everyone in the room will say, yes, I like that. Give that man more people to work with, increase his team. But if you just report on costs and not what you have been doing with that money, then you lose out, right? So that is all I'm saying, that we, especially we with engineering backgrounds, are good with numbers, but we're crap at reporting.
Strong statement, Mr. Eric. Now, remember when we started talking about that, I was in a call. I normally have regular conversations with Eric, and I was very happy and show my Power BI product. And what do you think about that? And he was very nice looking at that. But without taking too much time, he said, well, I think that this is useless. And I was, I'm sorry. And then we started having this conversation, and I thought, okay, I think that we should expand this for more people, because I think we need to listen to this message, because I think that this is a way that we FinOps practitioner can deliver value to the engagements that we have. Hey, Ido, do you have anything to add in terms of this? I think that the message here is becoming clear. There is a difference between reporting and dashboarding. So what are your thoughts about that?
So I 100% agree. And I think the main point in here is also for all of us, how are we going to generate those reports? And how are we going to provide, both get ourselves the right level of information, but also make sense of it and not be bombarded with too many like small details, and tell the right story about what's going on. I think that should be the focus of what we're doing as a community, a lot more than many of the things people use their time for.
Great, great. So I think it's time now for us to get a little bit more of a discussion. It's an open board. We have here about a little bit less than 20 people. I think that we can have more conversations. In Slido, we have an option to have to put your questions in there. So feel free to add your questions, and we will go in each one of them. And also, we can switch between questions on the Q&A and voice questions as well, if you want to make them live, okay? So I think that the first one is 1 vote. I understand the concept of unit economics, but sometimes I have difficulty on determining it. Any tips to find it? So tips to find the right unit economics. Maybe I will make this question for you, Ido, because you have that slide. So what are your take on that?
Yeah,
What
for
people
sure.
could do to find the right unit economics for their systems or services?
So I think the first question in here is obviously a business question. So any business have their own things they should track. And I think very often people confuse what's easy to track to what they should track. So I see, for example, way too many companies saying we have unit economics because we have the cost per VM or the cost per CPU core. And I think that's probably, although it's a division of two numbers, it's not really the right unit that we should discuss. And we should discuss units that actually affect people businesses. So first of all, go to your product teams, finance teams, or business managers and understand what they care about and what they want to track. So that's definitely the first place to find it. After that, I think there is a question of how to actually get the data and how to make those calculations. And for that, I think there are probably different types of methods. So First of all, many of these data exist in some places. So probably you have a BI team within your company, maybe use something like a Snowflake or like a tool like that. BigQuery is also very common, where you already store data about the amount of users or the amount of requests or the distribution of those that are being done to your company. And then basically you need a method. It can be a FinOps tool like Telenor, but it can be also something built in BigQuery or Power BI that allows you to correlate that with your costs and find out how to tie those things together. I think where this becomes difficult is where you have many applications and many types of metrics, and each of them relates to a different user or a different geography, and then you need to find ways to automate that. And again, that's what we do in Telenor, but I think that's also where you need some kind of automations in code, and probably that can be scaled manually by doing that in some Excel sheet.
Great, great, very good. Let's go to the second question. How LLM can improve in going from dashboard to reports, and what are the risks of automated mistakes? Do you want to take this one, Eric?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, honestly, I'm now going to reference a product here in the room simply that already uses AI to enrich cost data. It does not provide, how can I say, proper reports as written reports like a financial report or stuff like that. But I would say AI is a tool, right? So use it as a tool, supervise what's being generated as output by this tool, and then ultimately have it, you are responsible and in control of what you deliver. So I would not, at the current state of AI, with the LLMs hallucinating and producing rubbish from time to time, I would not have blindly just set up a pipeline where we just say, I put my name on that and send it to all departments, and AI generated everything for me. I don't have the courage to do so, but I would say I could create a pipeline with some workflow tools and let AI then walk over the aggregated data that I have generated and maybe put that into a LLM. Also, if you use, for example, QuickSight, there is the QuickSight module that also can generate parts of reports for you, analyze trends, and sometimes it's really good to see correlations that you don't see at the first moment. So in that sense, yes. How it can improve in many ways, use it. I use it on a daily level. You can anonymize data, and you can definitely improve your reporting skills using AI, definitely. Otherwise, it's brain power alone.
Yeah, I think also we tend to forget that people also hallucinate, and definitely only trusting people to generate good reports also create a lot of mistakes, even if they're not automated. And tools can just help us. And
Yeah.
I'd say, maybe as a funny anecdote, we have in Telenor also in data kind of an automated report and video report and auto dashboard that tells you kind of what happened last week or last month within the environment. At least early on within this project, we've seen many such things of, let's say, someone started tagging some part of the environment, and then the report noted that as a huge spike for that tag because now there are new costs added to that. So there are definitely things where a machine can't really get the context enough from the different teams, and then it notices changes and puts a big emphasis of them, and you definitely need a human in the loop. But it definitely bring into your attention that some things have happened and do have some correlations, and I definitely recommend using it.
What you shouldn't do, though, is ask AI to generate a 12-page report, because the consumer will ask AI, can you summarize this 12-page report for me? So, I mean, use it with some kind of criteria, right? Yeah.
Right,
I think
right.
we have exhausted this question.
Hey, let me open the mic for everybody here that is on the call. You can unmute yourself. Let me hear from you as well, as this AI LLM is becoming a hot topic. Maybe you guys over here on the call are having your own experiences on that or have your own questions. Does anyone want to add to this, what we have just said about the LLM and AI on FinOps? Don't be shy. You can unmute yourself and speak here. Going once, going twice. All right. If not, let's keep going. The other question here is, my manager doesn't want to step up from good enough reporting. What can I do? Okay, this one is it's a tough question, huh? Who wanna take this one?
I can take it.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I would say first we need to acknowledge the elephant in the room, right? So if the manager does not want to step up, there are two possibilities. And in my views, there are only two possibilities here. One is ignorance with the meaning of not knowing, okay? So the ignorance could be simply not knowing that there is a better solution, okay? The other one is, I would call it malicious intent, almost. Like stopping, blocking innovation, stopping progress, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's very hard to say it's a gray zone. No, it's either one. They don't know they could do better, or they don't want to do better. So what we can do about it, because there's a third condition now that I'm introducing that I'm already excluding, and that is we might not have time to do it now because we want to do better. But that's another thing. I think if you realize that you should want to improve something and a manager is blocking, then document that your current reporting is crap. Okay. Document what you would like to improve it, make a business case for it, and then document the reasons for not doing it. The reason could be other priorities now, fine, then you just postpone it. Or it could be, no, it has been blocked by managerial decision or stuff like that. That's the first step. And sometimes also simply making this conscious decision to postpone or to document it as crap unlocks certain situations. I will warn you, in certain toxic environments, it can get you fired, but then it might be also good for you to find another new job if the environment was so toxic that simply suggesting something gets you fired, because any suggestion, if you're real, is a criticism in itself, right? So we could do better means we are not doing the best. But acknowledging that we might have not time to improve it, I think that's something that we need to have as a leeway and say, okay, we'll do it in a month or two and three. But these are the things we are missing out on weekly or daily until we have improved our reporting. Okay. Is that more or less exhaustive for your question?
No, I mean, this one is similar. It's curious that we get this question because this is one of the things that we discussed as well in private, right, Eric? What happens when there is a block on someone on the top of the hierarchy, and we are here, we know what is the good thing, what is the best thing to do, but it seems that people there is a should be accountable is not acting with the enough accountability that is required. So we get stuck in that, okay, I know that I can do more, I know that I can progress, but it seems that there is someone that is blocking my progress, and that person has the power to block the progress. So I think you addressed that very well. As this is something related to let's say soft soft skills, I can see here on the call that there are many people. Some of them I know, they're pretty solid FinOps practitioner with some experience. Would you like to share as well your perspective on this? Anyone here on the call? So what happened? What are the tips that you do to go around this barrier? You can unmute yourself and provide your 2 cents. Anyone?
Actually, I don't know if this is a smart move, but I've talked with Tino about this problem. Maybe he wants to remember what we talked about.
Guys,
Yeah.
you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So just to get back to the original question, we're asking what do we do when we face difficulty, like a blocker that's like a human being, not necessarily our technology when it comes to producing a report. Is that, am I understanding the question correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like discussed with Eric, we actually have quite a few conversations around this, and there are quite a few things, a few approaches that we can take, right? I think as FinOps practitioners, we always want to produce a report that makes sense, you know, that kind of has some actions behind it. It's not simply just the data that we're getting. And sometimes you might say that, well, look, this report isn't painting a full picture of what we're looking at, right? It's not showing a full picture. So maybe we go and we suggest, all right, can we perhaps tweak the reports? It might take a little bit of extra effort, but the report will be a lot more valuable when it's in the hand of a stakeholder, somebody who might not have a lot of time to ingest and try to understand what the data means. They might just look and say, oops, we've got, you know, 0 incidences, and so we don't need a security team. So perhaps the first step would be to say, look, this is a suggestion. I think this would make our reports, you know, a lot richer. But if you find somebody who's a soft block who doesn't want you to actually advance and create those high fidelity reports, the only thing that you can do quite genuinely, I think, as mentioned by Eric, is to say, look, this is the reports we're producing. They're good enough for the organization. We don't have the time or whatever the reason is to produce a report that might speak to a lot more value for a stakeholder, and just to make that statement. And then I guess it's just to continue doing what you need to do in your role as a FinOps practitioner. If you're producing a report that is seemingly useless, but it gets your bills paid, maybe that's all that you can do in that moment. But it's to actually show that there was a level of innovation as a FinOps practitioner to say, I think this data should have a lot more emphasis put on what it means, so that when it lands in various, you know, hands, it has some level of impact. But if you're being blocked from that, there's not much that you can do. Unless you start your own FinOps consultancy, I guess, and then fix it. Yeah.
I like this suggestion.
Awesome.
Awesome. That's very well said, Tino. Thank you so much. So let's go to the next question here on our Q&A. And this one is direct to you, Eric. I was shocked that the guy who produced the security report got fired. What do you do if that's a standard report we are required to produce?
I think this is an easy one, actually. So we still need that part of the report with 0 security incidents. We just need to provide the context to give information, enough information to say what we have done to get there. Okay, I will tell you a similar example. After 2 months in a contract, I managed to slash the cloud cost by 38% and improve the tagging from 15 to 85%. 2 months, okay? And they were super busy with a new project. They had almost nobody had no time. So it was like a miracle for me, okay? I reported that and got fired. Why? Because I had not reported what I had been doing. I reported what we had achieved for the business. So my report should actually say that we had this many interactions, we had this many trainings, we had this many interventions, discussions, initiatives, meetups, events, pizzas, whatever, to make this happen, okay? That should be in my report. Even if it's just an average, it should hint at how many hours, how much legwork I put into to make this happen, to bridge communication silos with, I don't know, back channeling, coffee chats, lunch and dinner and stuff like that. Those are the tools of a FinOps practitioner to work around, you know, communication barriers, right? So that is something that we should be able to document and produce, and not just look at the difference in percentages of the cloud cost and say, ha, that's my report done. So I'm criticizing myself, my previous engagements as well with this webinar here. So I'm putting myself on the line and saying I have done reporting poorly in the past as well, right? So I'm stepping up my game as I'm learning. And I hope I will never stop learning, because that's when you die. And the thing is, yeah, that's it. You have to enrich the report so that the person reading the report said, nobody outside that person who wrote the report could have done it, right? So they should recognize it as being your report, and not a generalized, just, make the averages of all the numbers I see in an Excel sheet, right? Because that can be automated. But the insights behind it, the explanations, the also recommendations that are not the typical just GP2 to GP3, right? So, for example, in the document, we shouldn't share it in the chat, then the link to the report that I generated. There are some recommendations, for example, that say that a certain team should be congratulated because they managed to bring down the costs, and also you can skip down to the last bit. There are the recommendations, and those recommendations are not AI generated. So, for example, we have a recommendation that we should improve and switch to proactive reserved instance management. That is a recommendations that you don't get from the cloud cost report, right? And also that you need to improve your readiness for migration, stuff like that, and also the recognitions for Team E, right? Because it was not in their control for the reserved instances. Their costs went up like mad because they went back to on-demand pricing, and they even had a revenue and increase in usage. And despite that, the cost went up, yes, but that was mostly to their RIs. So that means they made right-sizing, downsizing, whatever was needed, our architectural changes and configuration changes and stuff like that, to make that happen. So unless there is a FinOps practitioner who can identify this and puts it into a report, yeah, we're just back to averages. And if you put a poor man and a rich man and make the average, you have two wealthy men. You know how it is.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we're getting to the end of our time commitment here. So let me see here what we still have on in terms of questions. Hey, can any one of you we can tackle real quick 1 minute for the next question. What can be done about shared environments where we can't measure each customer costs? Ido, do you have any thoughts on that real quick?
Well, I think that can be a webinar by itself, but I think very quickly, I think my idea to that is that we have to correlate cost with usage data, and that data can come from other sources. So even there is another question in here mentioning APM or observability tools, and that's definitely one way to go about it. I think what I mentioned earlier about using BI data, such as what you might have at your data lake or data warehouse, might be a second option. But people need to start thinking about using those metrics and allocating costs in a much more granular way than just looking at sum totals. And often in many environments, there are going to be many shared clusters or shared costs, but it doesn't mean you have to stop there and giving everyone like an equal share is often causing much more harm than good. So people need to allocate that more properly and using the right usage metrics for that.
No, this is good. Good that you touch on the first, on the last, and maybe I will tackle
Can
on
I
this.
add something to Ido's response?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I know of companies that took over 2 years to get to decent tagging coverage. And there are tools that can do that within an afternoon, even with shared accounts and shared resources. Simply by mapping out network connections between resources over your cost data, and you get that. And then it's simply, air quotes, simply the question of saying this application or this infrastructure component, resource, virtual machine, gateway, whatever, either shared or belongs to team A, team B, and team C. And then it's basically from there on, bomb, done. And I remember this 2-year journey being presented as a FinOps success story. which was actually not a success story. It was 2 years of people working on something that could have been done with the proper tooling in 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. So real quick on this one here, the last one is how do we report the multi-cloud or hybrid environments where cost data is inconsistent? Quick question, quick answer, focus. But I know that there are more inconsistencies that need to be dealt in with, but focus is going to be a good start. Okay, we're getting to the end of our call. This is the gift that we promised. This link here is the link for to download the template. The Power BI template that I showed you on this call is available for you entirely. It contains 4 months of mock-up data, so you can play around. It's anonymized, and it was taken from the FinOps Foundation website examples. Created 4 months in there, so you can play around, create your own visualization. It's all yours for you to use. You can go in this link here on the call, take a picture there, and have fun playing with the Power BI. With that, I just want to say a big thanks for our guest here, Eric and Edo, for participating. It was really good conversation. Thank you so much for
Thank you for
being
having
here
me.
with us.
Yes, thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. So we're closing the call, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day and continue doing FinOps with the best you can.